Hi everybody, welcome back to part 3 of our junk journal series, where we're starting from the very beginning. For those of you who have never made a junk journal before, haven't got a lot of clue about it, are really confused by watching everybody else's videos, this one is for you, this series. So we're on our third one. Yesterday we sorted out all our pages and we made them into what we call signatures, which is just literally a word for a collection of pages. Okay, so today what we need to think about is how we're going to bind these into our book. Now the easiest way to do it would be to have a spine and to punch some holes in and to thread a piece of elastic through the 2 holes and secure the signature, so with some elastic through here, little fine elastic, and tie it on the spine. And that would be a secured signature in your book. So you'd have a spine with holes in it and you just thread in 4 different pieces. You make 4 little holes on your spine, 4 pieces of elastic, and you just tie them all on the outside, and that would be that. Now there's plenty of videos showing you how to do the non-binding way, and that, you know, it isn't difficult. What is tricky is the binding. Anyone who says it isn't, it is. When you're a beginner, I found it really hard. I messed it up so many times. So what I'm going to show you today is how we make our spine for our book. Okay, so we're going to make the spine first before we do anything else. Now I like to make sure that my spine is at least double the size of my signatures when they're just resting and open. So I would estimate, looking at this one, so I'm searching for my ruler, which I've just found. So if I put these gently together, that's at least 1.5 inches. Let's move you up again, I've just knocked you. So I would want my spine to be at least 3, at least that. And on each side, I'm going to, because you're a beginner, I'm going to help you out by saying that we have 1 inch on either side of those 3, because we're going to attach that part to our covers. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So we need to have a 3-inch spine, or if you want to do a 2.5 inch, whatever you think. I'm going to do I think I'm going to do a 3-inch for this. So I'm going to take it up to 5. Some people may be looking at this going, oh my goodness, that's too wide. I don't think it is. By the time your customer or you fill it, it's going to be quite chunky. So let's base it on that. Nothing worse than having too thin a spine. If you watched my last series, my botanical journal, I actually had to take the spine off and make a new one because I just hadn't made it big enough. So there's my 5 inches. And then I'm going to grab my my little scorer. Now if you haven't got a scorer, it doesn't matter. You can measure across each of the measurements, the inches and everything that we're doing, and then you can get just like the end of a pen or something, or a pencil, and just kind of go down and score that way. You just need something that's fairly pointed, that's all. If you've got a bone folder, you can use that to score. You don't always have to have a scoreboard, and I've only got a tiny one, so with this big piece I'm going to have to do it twice. So I'm going to pop it on there, and these scoreboards will come in centimeters or inches. This one is in inches. I'm a metric girl because I live in the UK. I've always been brought up in centimeters, so inches can be quite tricky for me. Okay, so we are going to score this. We're going to leave a 3-inch spine, so we're going to score at 1 inch, and then we're going to score again at 4 inches. Okay, like so. And then I'm going to turn it round and do the same thing again because my scoreboard isn't long enough. I'm going to score at 1 inch, and I'm going to score at 4 inches. Okay, and there you have 2 score lines. And at that point you could bend up, and these are the pieces that are going to attach to your journal. Okay, if you want to make the spine smaller at this point, if you think, oh my goodness, that's too much, then obviously you can just take a bit more in. But I think by the time that's filled, that's going to be quite a chunky book. So now I've done that, what I want to do with this is, you've got 2 choices. You can either cover this in paint or ink, or distress it into a colour, a brown, if you'd like, you know, a vintage look, or you could do a colour that matches the front cover of your journal that you have in mind, whatever decoration you have. It's entirely up to you, okay? Or you can just leave it as it is and decorate it afterwards. It doesn't matter. It's just what you need to do. And at this point, you need to then bend up your so if you're not painting it and you're keeping it plain like my one, you need to bend it up. I think I have got a video. If you go back, I have got a video on journals, and I showed you how to colour your spine and paint it with Mod Podge and get it this kind of vintage colour look. Okay, so if you go back, I'll link that video in the description for you if I can find it myself. I'm sure I can. So there we have it. So that's going to be our spine, and the next bit is to measure how deep we need our spine to go. Now I like to have a little bit of spine, a little extra on the top, just sticking out, just, you know, a couple of millimeters. I hope you can see that on this side, and I like the same on here. So the best thing to do is to measure your book, get it all together and roughly measure it. So that's about 8.5. So I think if I did 8 3/4 or 8 7/8 or something like that, that would probably be big enough. So let's just line that up here. I'm going to put that right at the end. I'm going to check again. See, that's looking more like 9 when I line it up. So that wouldn't be so bad. There'd be plenty of room in there if I did it at 9. And I can always trim it off later. So I think that's what we're doing. I'm going to cut my spine at 9. So let's grab my book back. My, sorry, chopper back. I don't know why I said book. Move the book out of the way and grab the chopper. So that's 9. So I'm just going to trim that off there. Okay. So now I've got my spine the right size. And at this point, you need some cardboard. Now, you don't have to use grey board if you haven't got it. Now, grey board is a very thick cardboard, and it comes in different thicknesses. You could quite easily do a soft cover if you wanted to. So just some soft, thick paper or something like that. Anything that you fancy. You can even do a fabric cover if that's what you're after. But I always like to go for something that's a bit firm. So in this instance, because I've got grey board handy, that's what I'm going to use for this project. So I'll be back in a second and I'll show you the type of grey board I'm going to use. Okay, so this is the grey board I'm using. This one's quite flexible. So this is, I think this is about 300 maybe. I can't remember, but there's different thicknesses, and I would suggest that you kind of read, you know, how many millimeters deep they are and get one that's not too thick for this purpose, because you won't be able to cut it with your cutter, and I find it really difficult to do with a knife. So I'm going to try if I can, but it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. So let's take a look at, if I use my cutter, it blunts my blade, but if you've got a guillotine or something, you can use that. It's entirely up to you. It depends on what you've got. So we did 8.5, and then width wise it's going to be a bit different because I have different widths in this book. So again, I'm looking at, I think probably 6 3/4 to start with. So I want 9 by 6 3/4. I'm just going to jot that down on here. So I have a 9 by 6 3/4 on the top there. That'll just remind me, because I've got hopeless memory, as some of you already know if you've been watching me for a while. So I'm just going to measure. Now what you can do is you can measure all the way along. That is quite tricky to get straight, but once you cover it, you're not really going to notice anyway. So if you're a little bit out, it doesn't really matter. But what you can do is you can make marks all the way up on this page and then chop it that way. If you mark here, and then you mark here, and then you mark here, mark here, and then you can join them all up. I'm going to use my cutter because I need a new blade anyway, so I'm just going to probably ruin it. And you can see at the bottom here, I've broken the sheet. This comes in a big A3 sheet so that I can fit it into my cutter. So I am going to start with, oh, sorry guys, this is jogging me a little bit. I'm going to start with 9, first of all. And I'm going to cut here, and I'm going to, you can actually probably put your scissors in here at this point if you wanted to. I like to see if I can bend it and cut it that way. Don't think that one's going to go, but sometimes, there we go, you can just tear it. And I just don't think it matters if you tear it. I really don't, because yes, you might get a rough edge, but you're going to cover it, so it doesn't matter. So I just tear it. It doesn't bother me at all. Okay, so that one was, I did do that one at 9, didn't I? Was it that one or that one? Oh, now I've forgotten. What did I do? Goodness me, my brain. Sorry, I've got to check what I did it at now. Yeah, that one was 9, wasn't it? And I cut it off there, so that's fine. And then this way, we need 2 at 6. I'm hoping to get, is it 6 3/4? See what I mean? What did I put on that piece of paper? 6 3/4. Oh dear, I always forget. So I think I might only get 1 out of here. 6 3/4 is there. So that's quite, that is quite chunky, isn't it? That particular one. So I'm going to tear this out and I'm just going to see if I can pop it. There we go. So that's one. So I'm going to quickly mark this because I'm hopeless and I will forget which bits are which. So this one is back. And now we're going to make a front. Oh, honestly, brain fog is the worst thing to get. Especially if you're a teacher. It's so frustrating. Okay, so 6 3/4. Let's make sure I've got that right. 6 3/4. You know, if that happens, if you could just trim it. Okay, 6 3/4, and then I want 9, don't I? So let's chop that side off. Okay. Don't know if anyone out there gets brain fog from illness. It's so aggravating. It just feels so silly. Right, I am finally done. So now I have my 2 pieces and I'm going to pop my book in there. And as you can see, that's just about right with things sticking out. That's going to be fine. So at this point, what I need to do is I need to cover both of my page, my back and my front. So we're going to do that now. Now you can choose fabric, you could choose burlap, you could choose anything that you wanted, paper, it doesn't matter. Scrapbooking paper sometimes creases really badly. But yes, you can use whatever you want. In this instance, I'm going to use some burlap because I haven't used it for ages. So I'm just going to dip under the desk and I'll show you my very fine burlap that I got from AliExpress. I just changed my mind because burlap is actually quite tricky to do. So I thought, you know what, let's not do that. If you're a beginner, you're going to have paper. So I'm going to stick with that. Now, this is a really inexpensive pad that I got from Home Bargains. It was £1.99, so that was great. Not the best quality paper, but fine for a cover. So I'm just going to go through and pick something that I quite like. I quite like this floral with the green. That's really pretty. So I'm thinking this one's quite nice, and I even quite like this pink. I like the green. See, the green would go with that. So I could have one on one side and one on the other. Look, that would go fine. So I think we'll stick with those. Just double check that there's not another one that I love. Okay. Maybe we could just do 2 check. Let's see. No, I'm going to stick with that. This check might be quite hard to keep straight, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay. I'll get the other one out if I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. I tend to avoid checks and things if you're trying to keep the paper straight, especially as a beginner. Maybe we'll just do floral. Let's grab that one. Oh, it's really hard because even like this one, but we'll go with vintage. Let's get all this out of the way. Okie dokie. Let's stick with that because it makes it a bit easier. We won't complicate things for you guys. So the first thing that I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to lay this into the corner of my paper. Let's move you up so you can see. Okay, oh, that's better. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is to put this and measure it where I need it to be. And I'm going to leave myself, I want to use the whole sheet, so I'm going to leave myself, I mean, you could put it straight in like this, but I'm going to leave myself a good chunky border all the way around the outside, and I'll probably just cut this piece off here. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And the same with your other side. So let's just mark roughly about there, would be great. And I'll pop this one underneath. And it'd be about the same. So we'll get those snipped off or cut off, whatever you've got at home, whether you've got a cutter. Let's see, I'm talking rubbish now, as usual. Brain fog. Okay, so there we go. So that one's done. And then all you're going to do, let's move that out of the way, is you're going to get your cover. And now you can either use some glue or you can use some double-sided sticky tape. Now I have double-sided sticky tape, and I use this because it keeps my cover nice and sharp and nice and neat, and I'm really happy with the adhesion. So whatever you want to use, if you want to use glue, you can use a Pritt stick if you want. It really doesn't matter, especially if it's for you. Because, you know, if the cover came apart, you'd be like, okay, I can stick that again. It's for a customer. You need to test out which glues are the best, which tapes are the best for you. So I'm going to go ahead and cover this in the double-sided sticky tape, and the same with the other one, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so those are both done. So what we need to do now is we need to grab our paper. Get rid of that knife. Oh, keeps running towards me. I'm going to put our paper down here, take our first cover. This is always tricky. I get my pokey tool actually, guys. There we go. May not do it any quicker actually. I have to speed this bit, won't I? If I'm not very fast. There we go, look at that. We're getting there, we're getting there. Okay. Pokey tools are always useful if you've got one. I know I bought one for a friend of mine, and it was in the one of the pound shops. So you do get them from time to time. There we go. Okay, so that's our first one. And we're going to just lay it into the centre, roughly, of our paper and smooth down. And I'm just going to quickly turn it over and just use my hands to make sure that's nicely smoothed. Okay. Then I'm going to get my ruler, or anything really that you want to use, and I'm just going to push up that side. And I'm going to push up this side. I like using a ruler for this. You get a nice even pressure on the side of the piece of paper. It's useful. Okay, there we go. Now when I've done that, I'm going to snip off my corners. Now what you want to do is leave a tiny, tiny bit between the actual cardboard and the paper. Not a lot though, because if you leave too much, you're going to have trouble tucking in that corner. I know a lot of people say, well, leave a couple of millimetres. No, I disagree with that. I've had terrible trouble as a beginner doing that. So I just leave a tiny bit. Just going to cut that off. Get rid of those scraps for a second. Okay, now you want to do the two sides here first, or these two sides, whatever you feel more comfortable with. I like doing the little ends first. And again, you can use tape, but just for quickness, I'm going to use, I'm certainly not going to use Fabri-Tac, but I am going to use some 3-in-1. Okay, make sure you've got the light on that. Oh, gooey 3-in-1, look at that. Whoops. Okay, let's move this piece out of the way. So we're just going to glue along the edges here. You can just use your bone folder or just your hands to get that nice and flat. Same on this side. Now what you're going to do here is, I'll just bring you down slightly. You're going to need to tuck in this little piece here, because if you go like that, it might stick out. So you just push it slightly and then you get a really nice fold. It's just this tiny little bit there that you push in. Same on this side. Don't push a lot, just the tiny little corner part. Then you get a nice corner. Okay, hope that makes sense. We'll do another one in a second. Okay, there we go. And the same on this side. Bring you down again so you can see. So I'm just going to tuck in that tiny bit there. And the same on this side. So if you left 1 millimetre or 2 millimetres, it'd be too much. Now you've got a nice neat corner. So let's glue that down. This one's come up again. Put a bit more glue on it if it needs it. Okay. There we go. And then you should have some nice neat corners. Some of them might be slightly rounded. I don't worry about that. Not too much anyway. You might put corners on the metal corners, or, you know, just put something pretty on it that you're just not going to be able to see it anyway. And then you need to do the same with the other, the other side, the front cover. Okay guys, so we have our two pieces here, and I'm going to go back to my original piece of paper, my spine, and I'm going to glue this on, okay? And it should be a correct fit, which it is. That's brilliant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 3-in-1 again to just do each in turn, and I'm going to put plenty of glue on this so that I've got no issues with it coming unstuck. So you just hold your spine, place your piece down. With 3-in-1 you've got a little bit of leeway, and I'm going to fold this over. That's really important, because what you don't want to happen is that when you try to fold it in, you can't move it. Now if you just fold it there, you'll see that the spine, it just moves slightly and leaves a tiny gap in between the fold and where I've placed the backing, and that's because you need that in order for this book to close. So the best thing to do is have a glue that's a little bit forgiving, and oh, excuse me, hiccups. Oh dear, I've had that all day. And it's a little bit forgiving and gives you that little bit of leeway when placing your back cover and your front cover. Okay, so I'm going to do the same on this side, and I'm going to fold it in exactly the same way so that I have that little gap form. So again, I'm going to put it on here so it's nice and stuck. Get rid of the excess. Then I'm going to immediately fold it over. Okay, make sure that's in the right place. Fold it over, and you'll see it's just moved slightly away from the spine there. Okay, Now that is your cover almost done. Okay, the last step would be to put some paper in here, and then I'll show you what we're going to do about sewing it in to this piece here. So let's grab that contrasting green check that we had, and let's see, we need it to be, I want to show a bit of the yellow, so let's have that at 5 3/4 by 8. Okay, let's do that now. I have to find another piece. Right, 8. Oop. Okay, 8 by 5 3/4. There we go. That's one. And let's check the size of this one, see if we can get 2 out. That's almost there, so 5 3/4, lovely. So you can get 2 out of that sheet, which is brilliant. Told you I didn't work in inches. Okay, right, so all we're going to do now is place these 2 sheets. Sorry, you're getting hit and everything, aren't you? There we go. Okay, so we're just going to glue down these 2 sheets in my insides, and then we are done for today. Okay guys, I will see you all tomorrow for the next step. Hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you managed to craft along. If not, just keep rewinding it, and you will get there. Okay, you can use any paper that you like for this. Don't think it has to be scrapbook paper. It can be newspaper if you want it to be. It doesn't have to be something all posh. If you want a junk journal that's truly a junk journal, you could use a book page, you could use a leaflet. Just be imaginative and go your own way. All right, my darlings, I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care.